Hey, I'm Ryan. Welcome to No Bad Days. I'd just like to start off by saying thanks to everybody that viewed the last video. All the amazing feedback and messages means a lot to me, and I'm just really excited that people are actually getting to see it and reaching out and giving me their thoughts and asking lots of questions and stuff like that. It's really motivated me and it's really exciting, so I just want to say thanks for that, and I thank everybody for supporting. And don't forget to click like and subscribe. So let's get to it. So today I want to talk about addiction treatment facilities and my experience with going to one, as well as my experience with visiting some throughout the province of Ontario. So first off, we'll just talk about some of the different types of treatment you can get into. By all means, this is not all of them. There's lots of different options when it comes to recovery, but this is just a few of them and my experiences with it. So first off, there's white knuckling. Everybody's tried it. Everybody that's had an addiction's given it a go at some point in time, I'm sure. And what that means is basically just stopping using. So stopping drinking, stopping drug of choice, and not getting any specific help or going to meetings or anything like that. And the reason it's referred to as white knuckling is it's literally like driving in traffic. You're holding on tight, and the only thing that you're not doing is literally not using. Everything else in your life is still going on the way it was, and you haven't made any changes to your life other than stopping the use. Eventually that's going to give, and you'll be back to square one. So it's not something I recommend. I do recommend getting some form of support, whether it's some of the things I mentioned in the future, or you find a different route. The other option would be private counseling. So that would be where you go to a private psychologist or psychiatrist and work through your addiction issues with said therapist. Now, one thing I personally had experience with is when I was attending counseling for my mental health issues, is that I was never honest. Because when I was in active addiction, I just wasn't honest about anything. So when I was sitting with my therapist, I was never honest with them about my problems. Therefore, it was really hard to come up with conclusions and ways to treat me. So I think I went misdiagnosed for a long period of time due to the fact that they didn't know what they were looking at and or working with. When they'd ask me how much I drank a week, I'd say 6 beers, stuff like that. When the reality is that my consumption was a lot. And so that does work. It's a great option. It's generally quite expensive, but it is a great option. But for me, that aspect didn't work until I was able to get honest. Now at a point in my life where I live a little bit more life full of morals and principles, and I am able to express myself, my treatment program is much better. It's better understood, and it works much better for me. Other option would be peer support or 12-step program, whether that's through your church or through one of the anonymous groups. All of those are amazing. I believe a massive aspect of addiction is the missing of the connection between human beings, and that vast majority of us are searching for that. I know for myself personally, that's what I was really missing out on. So that's a great option. For me, I only attended one meeting prior to treatment. I had a beer in the parking lot before it, stayed for the intro, and left quickly. It didn't work for me in the beginning. Obviously, I was not committed to it at that point in time. But that is a great option. We've seen amazing success with it. I've seen it firsthand. I have friends and things like that have been amazing results from that. And again, whether that's through an anonymous program or something else, there are lots of options, and you can find a lot of those online. The other option would be outpatient treatment. And what that means is you're attending a facility for full day programming, and you go home at the end of the day. So you would just be attending it almost like it was school or a job. And there's specific programming classes you go through the day. Most of those are going to run between 2 weeks and a month long. Again, can vary depending on where you are. A lot of those are offered through provincial groups, but some of them are private as well. So again, just search online, look up for inpatient treatment, and you'll find a lot of options. You're naturally going to see the privatized ones, as they're the ones that are paying for Google Ads. But you have to do a little searching, and you will be able to find them. I'd love to be able to give you some better leads and resources in that sense for searching, but every province and area is very different when it comes to that. One great asset is the Canadian Mental Health Association, so you can always check there. The other one, and the one that I experienced personally, was inpatient treatment. So what that means is that you go to a facility for a duration of time, anywhere, usually 30 days plus. For myself, it was 45 days. And those are either going to be government funded or privatized. Some of the privatized ones will accept insurance. It's something that you do need to speak with your insurance provider or your employee assistance program, and they can give you more insight on that. They are expensive, but you can't put a value on your life. There's no better way to put that. the way that I saw it and the way it was put to me is that it was an investment into my life, and there was no dollar figure on that. I was blessed enough to be able to attend a private facility, but the public facilities are amazing too. I do quite a bit of work with different treatment centers, whether it's facilitating meetings and things like that. So I do have experience with both private and public, and there's pros to both. So we might as well just talk about my experience directly. So I attended a private facility where you do pay. It really varies in price range. I'm not going to talk about that at this point because it really depends where you're looking, but they are expensive. So like I said, I attended a 45-day program. I was initially supposed to be there for 30, ended up staying for 45. And I'm just going to kind of give you a rundown of what my day-to-day experience was like there and why it was so important for me and why I think that really is what saved my life. So first off, I arrived, I mentioned this in the last video, you meet an intake coordinator. This is going to be any facility you attend, whether it's inpatient or outpatient. And the intake coordinator is going to kind of meet you and go through kind of all your information, things about you, family, contact, stuff like that. That is where the intake coordinator was assigning me my core counselor or lead counselor. And that's where they wrote a person's name down, Jerry, and they changed it to Ken, who is now, a very important figure in my life today. So that was my first meeting. I walk up to this house, or basically it was a house, and meet this intake coordinator, scared, beyond scared, not knowing what to expect. I only know what I've seen on TV. But I was greeted with open arms. I said goodbye to my parents, and I'll let them speak for themselves at some point. But they basically told me they expected to be getting a call from me that same day or within a couple days, trying to bail me out. So the way most of these programs are going to work, and at least at mine, was that once you're in the facility, you are not allowed to leave the property unassisted or unescorted at any point in time. You are there for the duration of time. So you walk in the doors, they inspect all your luggage to make sure you don't have any paraphernalia and or any device that can connect to the internet. So I get handed over my cell phone. It was locked away. The only thing I had was a little iPod, like a proper iPod. And only music it had on it was the free music that it came with, and it was the U2 album that came with iPods then. I'm not a huge U2 fan. This was the worst, but it was the only thing I was allowed to have. And it had a little video game on it, which came in handy at night. So they go through all your stuff and introduce you to some of the people in the household who are moving around. My facility had 30 people in it. It was men and women in the facility. And so I walked in the door, started to meet a couple people again. Completely out of my element, scared crapless, expecting the worst, expecting crazy things to be going on, and it was really, really a loving environment. It felt so odd to kind of feel at home in such a chaotic and scary situation. So that's how my kind of first day started. Sat down for dinner with everybody. Everybody's kind of got their routine, so I was kind of sitting by myself. But people are really nice, and people are introducing themselves. And it was great to meet all the guests in the house. They always have things to do in there, like whether it's playing ping pong or board games, things like that. One thing that I kind of latched onto was the coloring books, adult coloring books of all things. And drawing was a huge aspect for me, too. I never had any interest in drawing at any point in my life. I am not artistically inclined, generally speaking. But something drew me to it. It was something that really gave me the ability to kind of put my feelings into paper. And it may not have been great looking, but you can see it. And I'll post some of them here for you to see. And you can kind of see as it goes through it, what it was going through my mind and through my soul internally. So that was one outlet that I used there. So I'll kind of tell you about how a day goes down when you're in treatment. You wake up in the morning, and the way my facility was arranged, I had 2 roommates, so there was 3 of us in the room. Again, my first time sharing a room with a person in my entire life. Yet I'd never slept better in my life, which is kind of crazy to think. You wake up in the morning, you have to be down and ready for breakfast at 8 a.m. Breakfast is served at 8 a.m. You eat, hand over your dishes. Everybody's assigned a duty per week. So whether you're on dish duty or you're on garbages or sweeping, whatever it may be, you have household chores. So you eat lunch. The next thing you're going to do is go into what's called journal group. And again, this is at my facility. They're going to vary everywhere. And what journal group is a group of individuals who all share the same core counselor. Again, in this case was gentleman Ken. So we sat down with about 8 of us, and we read what we've journaled from the night before. Journaling is so important to my day-to-day life. I do this literally every single day. I'll show you actually, this is my journal from when I attended treatment. So this was my first journal, day one. This is, you know, can't read it, but this is my first day, and this has been with me since, and I have books and books of journals because I journal literally every day. So what I had to learn was ultimately how to journal. All that I'm doing in the morning is writing down my thoughts and feelings versus, you know, kind of what happened throughout the day. It's more things like why I was anxious, I felt happy, I felt sad, why, and identifying my feelings really, and ultimately that's the purpose of it, to understand why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. So in the morning, journal group, you read aloud, verbatim, your journal to a group of individuals. That's scary. And it's pretty easy to call somebody out when they're not reading it verbatim, and the people do call you out. What's nice about that is you get feedback from other people who are in the exact same position you are. So these are a bunch of men sitting around calling me out on my feelings. I was never one to share my feelings, to be honest. I don't think most people are, but I had to learn how to do that because I had stuff I needed to get off my chest, and I needed to know that I wasn't alone in this venture. So I would get amazing feedback, and I would cry, I'd be happy, I'd be sad. We'd have great discussions. So this would happen for about an hour, and that would set the tone for my day. From there, we'd have a brief 10-15 minute break for people to smoke, things like that. Then we would jump into actual classes or programming. And that could range from anything from mental health, spirituality, art classes, just day-to-day living courses to help us better understand life as a whole and to help us gain some structure. And it was really important for me. When I arrived at treatment, I was so lost. I could not take care of myself, and that was pretty evident. I didn't know how to live day-to-day. You know, I had skill sets and things like that, but I just didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing. The other thing is how important it was that we were eating properly, because I had gone with malnourishment for years. Like I said in the last video, I was 170 pounds when I arrived there, and at 6'4", that is not a good weight to be. So we would do those core classes and learn a lot of different things, and then we would have lunch. There'd be a quick break after lunch. Again, get to see everybody. None of the groups really crossed over and combined men and women, except for a couple of like the spirituality courses. Most of them were independently men and women. I think that's important too, because to make people comfortable with where they are, it's difficult when you have, you know, sometimes trying to impress the other gender. So again, just my opinion. So then after lunch, we dive into another course, and that could be anything like yoga, and things like that. So really working on every aspect of our life. And so we do that for a couple more courses in the afternoon. We'd have an hour break from about 4 till 5. That would allow us just kind of unwind. It is a long day, and when you're sharing your feelings all day, it's exhausting. So it would just be nice to chill out, hang out with everybody, play some board games, shoot some pool, play some ping pong, smoke, whatever it may be. But so that's how we would run that 4 till 5. We were actually allowed to watch TV 4 till 5 as well. And then 5:30ish, we would have dinner. Everybody would sit down, chat. And then after dinner, we would have another quick break, and then we would go into evening programming. What evening program would generally be is a 12-step program of some form, whether it was NA, CA, AA, you name it. Or we'd have guest speakers and things like that. So that would carry on throughout our evening. The day would wrap up at about 9 o'clock. So we've been going from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. consistent. At 9 p.m. till 11, we would have free time. So we were allowed 10-minute phone calls or 10 minutes on the internet. And that was it. And we could watch TV, and there was one TV for 30 people. So that makes it a little bit difficult. It's either a movie or sports. And, you know, at the end of the day, for me, it was just nice to sit around with people and just, you know, enjoy the connection and the people there. Everybody that was there was, from the outside, so different from me. Like, couldn't have been different. Yet we all were there for the exact same reason, and we're so similar in our life experiences. And that's what was just so beautiful about it. It felt like I said before, it felt like home. So 11 o'clock would come, and it would be time for bed. I'd hop into bed, 2 adult males, you know, falling asleep next to me, and I would fall asleep with no external devices. I used to be a person that would sleep with TV on. I still even kind of do it now that I'm home. But I used to sleep with TV on, everything on, and I would generally pass out versus falling asleep. So I was actually sleeping. I started to change up my routine a little bit as I got a little bit more comfortable. And I would wake up very early, and I would start to walk out in the woods by myself every morning. So at about 6 a.m., I would be out walking in the woods. I would have my headphones in and just listening to the tunes. I was able to actually get a couple downloads when people would come visit and stuff like that. So I'd listen to other music now that I didn't just have U2. And I would just walk in the woods and just be out in nature and just absorbing everything that I had to offer. I had so many great moments just by myself. And for the first time in my life, I was comfortable being by myself. I hated being alone. And no matter how much I isolated with drugs and alcohol, I hated it. And what I found with drugs and alcohol is everything I used them for to try to get me, whether it was connection, friends, relief, make me funny, it literally stole all of that from me. I ended up by myself, not loving myself, not knowing how to love, and it took everything from me. It did the exact opposite of what I intended it to do. And I was finally realizing that, and I was finally happy. This started to dawn on me about 2 weeks in. It took a long time for that kind of fog to lift because of 15, 20 years of abuse. There was a lot that had to kind of be sorted out. So I'd walk those trails in the morning, and then I'd get back, I would journal, and then I would do these things called animal cards. I know a lot of people may think this is hokey and things like that, but for me, this connection to nature, these tangible things, animals, stuff like that, just made sense to me at that point in time, and they still do today. Again, this is something that I do every single day, and these are them here. Like, these are literally, I use them to set my intentions every single day. So I do, I meditate on it, and then whatever it is, card that I draw that day, that's what I set my intentions on. So this one that I randomly pulled out is elephant, which means resolve. And the thing that I would set my intention on is that you will overcome any obstacles. So I would just take that with me throughout the day. I would jot it down. It's in my journal. It's written every single day that I do it. And it would just give me something to focus on. When things would get out of whack, or I'd get stressed, or I'd get anxious about something, I could just turn back to this and be like, oh, okay. The universe is working in ways that I don't understand, and it's going to be okay. So that's kind of a day in the life of a treatment center. I know it may sound like a lot. There are some crazy moments. I'm not going to tell any war stories. It's not my place to say, but I met some amazing people. I built great relationships and friendships there. Some of those I still have today. It's amazing to see people grow and see where they came from. But I'll tell you my most frightening thing that I experienced while I was in treatment. That was watching somebody leave, still on this pink cloud, as we call it, when you're in a safe place and you're feeling good and you're riding this high, and go out into the world, and they returned for treatment while I was still there. So that person had completed treatment, went out, and had returned while I was still in treatment. That scared the crap out of me, because that made me realize how real this really is. It can happen that quickly. Everything that was learned, all these tools that were given, that fast was turned around. So some of the tools that I was given while in treatment, and this is my book of stuff from treatment, really were those basics of living, like I said. And I had to learn every aspect of life, how to deal with my feelings, how to recognize, relapse prevention, how to deal with emotions, things like that. And it was going to school for me. And I learned so much. And like I've mentioned before, I had to unlearn, relearn, and learn who I was as an individual. I had to learn how to love again. And it was impossible for me to love others when I didn't love myself. So I had to go through this whole range of emotions, all in 45 days. I wish, and I tell people this all the time, that every person, regardless of your situation, would have an opportunity to go and work on themselves uninterrupted with professionals for 30 days. It is life-changing, no matter where you are at. To put that sole focus and to be selfish in the right way for yourself is an amazing experience. I recommend it to anybody that's ever struggling with anything in your life to reach out for help. We aren't supposed to do this on our own. And I had to realize that there's so many options for people out there. And it's just all that it takes is just asking. And you don't need to be afraid of it. And I know that's easier said than done. But it's as simple, you can send me a message and I'd be happy to direct you into a place. But like I said, I met some of the best people in my life. It showed me what living was. in a place that should have been filled with fear and guilt and shame. And I went through all of it, and I'm here today, and I'm excited for what's to come next. You know, when I pray at night, I am thankful for the challenges that I face every day because I know I can overcome them. And that's only because I've been given tools, I implement them in every aspect of my life, and I live it. You know, I was afraid when I was in treatment that when I came out, that my life was going to be about recovery. And recovery is part of my life. I live an entire, complete, fuller than full life. And recovery is just part of it. My life isn't just recovery. And it's nice to know that not everything revolves around it. I get to experience so much today. I'll leave it just kind of on one experience and something that I will take with me forever because it's tattooed on me. When I came home from treatment, I was able to see my grandma. And she told me, she hugged me and said, "You made it." And that was the last time I saw her. And to be able to be present for that and to experience that made everything worthwhile. I'm only here today because I took an opportunity and said yes when everything inside of me said no. And I was able to be there and in a situation where at any other point I would not have been there. There's no question of that. So today I have tattooed on my arm, "You made it." And I owe that to the people that were in treatment with me, to the people that challenge themselves every day, and, you know, to that person that's picking up their one-day chip. That's what keeps me going. It's seeing that there is hope and seeing that it does get better and knowing that every single day I have a fighting chance to live the best life possible. And at the end of the day, that's what I try to do. I try my best every single day to be the best version of myself I can. And that way at night I can go to sleep and knowing that I did my best, even if I faltered, even if I make a mistake, even if, you know, I do something wrong. I did my best, and I'm doing the best that I can with what I have. And I can recognize when I've done something wrong today, and I can make amends for that. And I owe that all to saying yes to going to treatment when like I said, everything inside me said no. And I'm so grateful that my parents gave me that opportunity. I'm so grateful that my parents put in the time and effort to find out how to get me into treatment. And if I could leave you with anything, if you're dealing with anybody in your life that's struggling, whether it's addiction, mental health, living problems, the best thing I can recommend is that anytime you approach them with anything in regards to this, come from a place of love, come from your heart. Because I will tell you this, I remember every single time somebody spoke to me about my drinking and drug use when they came from a loving place and they just wanted what was best for me. But I do not remember any of the times that people tried to tell me how to get sober. And I mean that. That went in one ear, out the other. It was the people that came from a loving place. And I have great friends that are sober, that have been friends from long before I was sober. And and I'm so grateful for the opportunities I've been given. And so that's pretty much all I've got for today. This is a lot longer video than I intended it to be. And I got some exciting stuff to come in the future. I promise you it's not going to be all recovery related, but this is a big part of where we're at right now. I just kind of want to set the footwork for where we're headed. I've got exciting snowboard stuff happening. I've got awesome unboxing stuff happening. New camera maybe coming in the pipeline. Lots of exciting stuff. So thanks everybody for watching. And I hope you can continue watching. And like I said, hit like, subscribe, share with all your friends, and have an amazing day. No bad days.